book that you read, it is likely to be labeled as International Compensation and Benefits or International Reward Management. Now, when we talk about international CBA or Global Compensation and Benefits, it's primarily about the reward management system that multinational enterprises put in place for their workforce, be it at the headquarters or at the subsidiary level. And it becomes particularly important when we are dealing with how international assignees or expatriates are rewarded for their contribution to the task that they tend to accomplish at the subsidiary levels. So primarily, by the end of the lecture, we should be able to elucidate what global compensation is and what the benefits component also means. And those of you who have already done a little bit of introduction to human resource management, the compensation and benefit administration that was treated over there, it's just like what we are going to do today, except that we'll be introducing new elements that deals with the Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Good. So we'll be introducing additional elements that deals with the adjustment components which are given to them as a result of the hardship and the discomfort that they will be going through. Okay. So it is a little bit different from the domestic reward management that some of you may have been introduced to. So you should also be able to identify the main objective of global CBA, then how global remuneration in multinational enterprises are also done, then some challenges or issues that international HR face in their bid to reward their multinational workforce. Then the various approaches to international assignee compensation. So at this level, I'll be introducing you to just 3. And please take good note of them because you might never know when you meet them again. So I'll be introducing you to the negotiation approach to international CBA, the balance sheet approach, which is also known as the home-based approach, and finally, the host-based approach. So 3 main approaches or strategies. There are a number of them. In fact, just last month, I even saw a new one, which I am now trying to adjust to. And so the fact that I'm presenting you with only 3 does not mean that there currently exists only 3. There are a number of them, but at this level, you need some basics in order to build your foundation. Then the last thing we'll be treating today is the components of international CBA. So if you are a multinational, you are working in a multinational enterprise and you pick your pay slip, what are some of the key issues or elements which make up your compensation and benefit administration? Those are some of the things that we'll be looking at today. Okay. So by way of introduction, we are saying that the design and maintenance of an enterprise total reward system is always critical responsibility of the HR manager. And this is true because once you get your appointment letter, in fact, before you even get it, it is envisaged that the HR manager should have forecast whether there will be enough financial muscle to contain you before you are even given the opportunity to come on board. And so they play a critical role in the designing and maintenance. And based on some motivational theories which incentivize HR managers to put certain components together to form the reward system, it is always important that at any point in time when an employee is given their package, they should find it substantial so that it will motivate them to deliver their best. So the determination of pay and benefits on an international basis becomes extremely complicated because of new considerations. Now, this particular bullet is also trying to compare the compensation and benefits packages which are given to people at the domestic level as opposed to the reward management system which is given to people at the international level. And we are saying that the moment you escalate it to the international basis, it becomes extremely complicated because there are new elements that you throw into the total reward system mix. And it is also important that you consider all those things. Other than that, it will not incentivize anyone to go for the assignments or to go through all those hardships. And one of the reasons why we are saying it becomes complicated is that at the international level, that is when we talk about international CBA, you'll be dealing with workforce in multiple countries. So by multiple countries, we are saying you'll be dealing with a lot of subsidiaries. And each of these jurisdictions have their own labor law issues. They have their own cultural orientation when it comes to reward system. And they have their own taxation system. So this kind of complicates how it is administrated. For employees from many different countries, such as impatriates, host country nationals, guest country nationals, and so on and so forth, they will also be coming with their own expectations. So at the end of the day, you should be in a position to at least present something which is substantial to them in order to get the best out of them. And there are also varying country approaches to and the levels of pay and benefits. And you all agree with me that the reward management system we have in Ghana is totally different from that of UK and that of USA. And so if you have subsidiaries scattered across these jurisdictions, then the complexity of the administration becomes wanting. Again, international assignees who move across borders for different periods of time may also complicate the administration. And this is the situation where perhaps a manager from the headquarters is now stationed in a subsidiary for about 3 months, then subsequently to another neighboring subsidiary, and so on and so forth. In each of these jurisdictions, there should be a strategy where such assignees can be substantially rewarded. But in as much as we are interested in compensating such workforce, we shouldn't also lose sight of the fact that there can be huge disparity between how much they are receiving and how much their colleagues who are also doing the same job at that particular jurisdiction is also receiving. And so all these details have to be properly managed in order not to make people feel that they are not equally being treated. There could also be problems such as, so those are the ones that I was mentioning, that different standards and cost of living, multiple currencies, exchange rates, inflation rate, taxation system, tax rates, labor law, and so on and so forth. So at the international level, the compensation and benefit administration becomes more complicated as a result of some of these issues that I have raised. And in order to administer an equitable and fair compensation package at the global level, it becomes imperative that you do not lose sight of all these issues. They have to be properly thought through. Now, so what is compensation? Primarily speaking, compensation refers to the monetary payments, which could be in wages or salaries, or it could also be in the form of variable pay, that are used to reward employees for their contribution to organizational success. So in the strict sense of it, global compensation and benefits administration can be broken down to the compensation component, which refers to the wages and salaries that are given to international assignees or people working in a multinational enterprise as a way of rewarding them for their contribution to organizational success or their efforts in meeting organizational goals. Now, it is also important to know that compensation can be characterized as base salary. And the reason why we call it base salary is that it forms the foundation block for international compensation and benefit administration. That is, most of the additional benefits, allowances that the international assignee will be receiving is contingent, or it is based on these wages and salaries. So for instance, if we say we are giving an assignee a car allowance, which is 50% of the basic salary, it means that if your basic salary is 1,000 cedis, then we will compute 50% of it and treat it as an allowance. In the same vein, when we say we are administering a hardship premium of 20% of basic salary, it also means that your base pay, irrespective of the quantum that you are receiving, will be the foundation on which we will be computing this hardship premium. And that is the reason why we construe it as base salary, because all the additional benefits and allowances that you'll be receiving are contingent on the wages and salaries that you are receiving. In a domestic context, the base salary denotes the amount of cash compensation, serving as a benchmark for other compensation elements, such as the bonuses and benefits. So that is what I was ranting about. For expatriates, many allowances are directly related to the base salary, such as foreign service premium, cost of living allowance, which is also known as COLA, housing allowance, car allowance, and so on and so forth. So almost all the employees that accept jobs in multinational enterprises take up the assignment in various countries and take up the risk, bear inconveniences and discomforts in foreign assignments, mostly based on the compensation package. So it means that when prospective international assignees look at the reward system that they are likely to receive, and they also project the various allowances and bonuses that they are likely to receive out of the base salary, then it gingers them or it incentivizes them to what? Pick up the assignment. Now, so what are the benefits? The benefits, also the thing is international compensation and benefits, or global compensation and benefits. So the benefit components of the label, what does it mean? We are saying that salary is only one aspect of the total remuneration or the total reward system. And for any reward system to be holistic or total, it must go beyond the monetary components. which is the salary or the compensation. So a second critical component involves the benefit package that employees receive as part of their employment relationship. And the design of a comprehensive compensation and benefit program for all worldwide employees must, of course, include these. It must include these non-salary benefits. So what we are trying to say over here is that total remuneration or total reward system has the compensation component, and it also have the benefits component. And the compensation component tend to be monetary, whereas the benefit ones tend to be non-monetary. A major concern that multinational enterprises face in the design of their benefit package is the widely varying approaches to employee benefits as approached by each country. Now, this particular bullet or point is also trying to indicate that one of the key issues that bothers the mind of multinational enterprises, and particularly those who are in the helm of affairs when it comes to the administration of global benefits, is the different approaches that countries or subsidiaries may be adopting and implementing. And don't forget, like Hofstede mentioned, cultural dimensions have serious repercussions on how reward management are even approached. And so whereas one particular jurisdiction may be using the balance sheet approach, another jurisdiction may also be contemplating with the negotiation approach. And the reverse is true. In the same vein, multinational enterprises, as they grow and become bigger geographically, they may also be contemplating whether to replicate the benefit packages that they have at the headquarters at the subsidiary level. So all these become an issue that the multinational enterprise have to grapple with. Okay. So what are the key objectives of global compensation and benefit administration? What goes into the mind of multinational enterprises when they decide to adopt or implement a global compensation package? The first one is to attract and retain qualified employees for foreign assignments. And by this, we are trying to say that the multinational enterprise is aspiring to enjoy what we call competitive advantage. They want to have a competitive edge over their competitors. And so at any point in time, they are trying to put in place a reward management system that will attract high qualified or talented workforce into their enterprise. And once it attracts them, it is also expected to be substantial enough to retain them, so that irrespective of the competing offerings that they will be getting from the competitors or their rivals, they will still be incentivized to stay in that particular multinational enterprise. So that is what we mean by it is meant to attract and retain qualified employees for foreign assignments. And still with that particular point, if you limit it to employees for foreign assignments, sometimes when international assignees go for these assignments and they acquire new taste over there, you are likely to lose them, particularly if your reward system, which you have in place, is not substantial. And so at any point in time, we are saying that you should be able to administer something that will always make them feel the need to what? Stay. Now, the second one also has to do with the performance of the workforce. So we are trying to say that it is to improve in organizational performance beyond geographical borders. Now, at the end of the day, the multinational enterprise is expected to administer a reward management system. Is supposed to administer a reward management system which will incentivize not only the headquarters workforce. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please, you can hear me.
Good. Someone was trying to disrupt my network. So when we say it is to improve in organizational performance beyond geographical borders, it means that we want to, first of all, have a reward system in place, which will be able to ignite the best performance out of the workforce. And by helping people to perform well, our target is not only at the headquarters, but at every jurisdiction where we have a subsidiary. So at the end of the day, if you have a compensation and benefits package in place that is able to get people to work harder towards the achievement of their set targets, then in the end, you will be achieving higher performance targets, not only at one jurisdiction, but across geographical borders. The third one is also to facilitate the transfer between affiliates, jurisdictions, foreign affiliates, parent company, and between parent company and foreign locations. At the end of the day, we are saying that there might be the need for you to send people abroad to go and handle assignments over there. And so the global compensation package is supposed to be in a position to reward them as they go through these transitions, despite the discomforts or the challenges that they will be going through, and their likelihood of moving away from their comfort zone to a less comfort zone. Then the fourth one is to establish and maintain a consistent, reasonable relationship between the compensation of employees of all affiliates, both at home and abroad. So in there, we are trying to say that we want to establish a compensation and benefits system which is equitable. By equity, we are anticipating that at the end of the day, those who are working at the subsidiary level will not be disadvantaged as compared to their colleagues who are working at the headquarters. And the reverse is true. But the achievement of this particular objective is very, very difficult. And this is so because of the complexity that comes with the global compensation administration. And by complexity, I mean, you'll be dealing with different cultures, different countries, orientations, different tax systems, and so on and so forth. So because the cost of living is not the same across these jurisdictions, then maintaining the equity will become a little bit difficult. Then at the end of the day, you also want to maintain a compensation package which is reasonable in relation to what your competitors or rivals are also giving out. At the end of the day, you don't want to come across as someone who is not treating the workforce very well. So you are supposed to benchmark and come out with a package which is almost equitable, and that is what we call external equity. It should be comparably reasonable to how much your colleagues or your competitors are also providing. And the last one is that it should also be able to incentivize the prospective international assignees to leave their home country for the foreign assignments. At the end of the day, they should be able to put 1 and 2 together and realize that it is worth going for the assignments. Okay, give me about 5 minutes. I'll be with you soon, okay?
Okay, sir.
Face in their bid to administer an equitable global remuneration across their borders. So we are saying that compensation and benefit specialists encounter a number of new challenges when they develop a total reward system for multinational enterprises compared to those experienced in a purely domestic company. Now, this is not to say that at the domestic level, there aren't really challenges, but the difference here is that at the global level or the international level, the complexities makes it more challenging to administer it and to make it look fairer and justifiable in the eyes of those who are going to receive it. So the first issue has to do with comparability, as in comparing, so comparability. Now, comparability has to do with the ability of the compensation and benefits to determine who is a peer for a job in the various countries and subsidiaries. So, assuming we are all working in a multinational enterprise, I am stationed in the Ghana subsidiary and you are in the Nigerian subsidiary. And we all have the label as a manager. At the end of the day, we are expecting to perform similar responsibilities and for that matter, receive equal pay. But if it happens that one of us is worse off, then we can say that the remuneration is not comparable. In other words, as you move from one jurisdiction to the other, you either become worse off or you become better off. So that is the comparability issue. The second has to do with national and organizational culture, the issue of national and organizational culture. We are saying that these issues, that is the national and organizational culture, have the chances of influencing how people perceive the value of the various rewards available in compensation system. So national culture, you can liken it to what Hofstede was saying in his cultural dimensions, where, for instance, if you take the long-term and short-term orientation, or the long-term and short-term time horizon, those with the short-term time horizon will be expecting their rewards now, whereas those with the long-term time horizon will be expecting their reward in future. And for that matter, longevity becomes an issue that they cherish in such contexts. So, likening it to this particular example, the culture may be performance-driven, which is pay for performance, and all is what we construe as short-term. That is how Hofstede will construe it. It's a well-established law, or it may be entitlement-oriented, which is with longevity of service. Now, each country may be having one of these orientations. So, because of the differences in national and organizational culture, there is the likelihood for a well-thought-through orientation to face a lot of challenges, particularly if it does not fit the cultural context where it is going to be implemented. Into the multinational enterprise might have an orientation, say, we are paying for performance. So if at the end of the day, we realize that specific people's contribution to the enterprise's success is key, then such people have to be singled out and then put on what we call incentive pay system. But the cultural context might not be right for such an orientation or a reward system. And so it becomes an issue that they have to grapple with. Then global laws of economics. And you all agree with me that minimum wage rates of payment per hour vary universally. So whereas the minimum wage in Ghana is now 11 point something cedis, it is totally different from what maintains in Nigeria, Ivory Coast, US, and so on and so forth. So because of the disparity in the laws of economy across the globe, it also becomes very much difficult when in one hand you want to comply with the labor laws, but in the end you might end up paying people lesser than what their colleagues are also receiving elsewhere. Then salary benefit ratio. That is the ratio between how much you are receiving as your salary and how much you are receiving as a benefit. It's also an issue that has bedeviled global remuneration across the globe. The amount of compensation that is salary versus benefits may also differ by country as a result of cultural practices, laws, and regulations. And tax laws have probably the biggest impact on how multinational enterprises structure their compensation and benefit package. So we are saying that depending on what the legal arrangements or the labor law in a particular jurisdiction dictates, and also depending on the cultural practices that maintains over there, it is likely to have varying salary to benefit ratio across all your subsidiaries. And this might be as a result of the multinational enterprises' attempts to respect the labor law, regulations, and cultural practices over there, whilst at the same time maintaining a standardized way of remunerating the workforce. Then labor relations. So collective bargaining and employee representations also differ greatly from country to country. And in fact, in some jurisdictions, certain professions are non-unionized. In other words, they are not even allowed to have unions, whereas other enterprises may have their own sort of internal and national unions. And so you all agree with me, since you've already done labor law, and I believe you have also done negotiation as part of one of your courses. So you understand what comes into play when representatives of union go to meet management to ask for a better treatment and better working conditions. And this will be particularly problematic for enterprises that do not have unions, so the non-unionized ones. In such jurisdictions, management may be deciding the conditions of service of the global workforce based on their own whims and caprices, which might not actually meet the global standards. But in jurisdictions where you have unionized representatives pushing the front of the workforce to make sure that they are properly treated, they are likely to have a better global remuneration. And so that is how labor relations can also play a role when it comes to the issue of global remuneration. And its absence may also affect the conditions of service of the workforce. And the laws and regulations. So those ones you can think about the differences in minimum wage, overtime, compulsory bonuses, and all these conditions of services, which are usually stipulated in the labor law. So because there are variations in labor law across the globe, you shouldn't expect that they will all be spelling out similar conditions of services. And so in jurisdictions where the labor law makes specific pronouncements, it becomes imperative that you follow it. And those specific pronouncements may also have challenges in other jurisdictions where it does not require it. So a number of questions have been advanced to address, to be addressed by international compensation specialists when it comes to the design of a global compensation and benefit program. And some of the questions that they have to think through in an attempt to design a global befitting reward system include the following. The first one is, under which country's compensation and benefit program should employees be covered? Is it a parent country's compensation and benefit package? Is it that of the host country or a specially designed program for everyone? Now, we are saying that multinational enterprises admittedly will have their headquarters in a parent country and subsidiaries at host countries. When it comes to the issue of having a global CBA, which of these jurisdictions reward system should be adopted? Is it that of the parent country or the host country? And if you pick that of the parent country and replicate it across the subsidiaries, will the organization have the financial muscle to maintain it? Now, if we decide to adopt the host country's one and implement it across the globe, will it be logical and consistent in terms of meeting the working conditions across the globe, and so on and so forth? So these are some of the questions that I have to think through, so that if it becomes necessary for you to perhaps develop different ones for each subsidiary as you go, then you'll be in a position to do it. Now, assuming you decide to have one for the parent country and separate ones for the host countries, the next question that you should be thinking about is, how should potential gaps or inequalities in pension healthcare coverage be bridged? So if you're on the package from the parent company, then it means that you are properly catered for when it comes to the substantial nature of the healthcare and pension, and basically any other benefits that will be contingent on the base pay computation. But those that are going to be placed on the host country policies are likely to experience some level of inequities or inequalities, and that can be construed as unjustifiable. So how do you address some of these things? It has to be properly thought through so that they will not feel left out or disadvantaged. Now, another question that they have to think about is that, is the benefits coverage adequate for all employees? Okay, so at this level, we are thinking whether the benefits package should be administered to certain categories of employees. Is it good to be administered to the middle level management up to the top one, or it should be across board? All these things have to be properly thought through. And don't forget that it's also contingent on the financial muscle of the organization. Then how can the cost of providing social benefits be minimized? And can the coverage under employees' home country social programs be maintained even as they move around? And should there be a global umbrella program to provide equitable coverage for everyone? So in there too, we are contemplating whether the social benefits that the international assignee was receiving at their parent country should be maintained as they also move across to the subsidiary level or to the host country, and so on and so forth. And what are the tax effects to employees, to employer and employees of special benefit arrangements for all global employees? And this is particularly important because depending on the arrangement you have in place, if you do not peruse some of these benefits and allowances you are giving the assignee, you might end up engaging in what we call double taxation. That is, the employee will be taxed at their parent country and also at the host country. At the end of the day, it is one company under which they are working. And so it needs to be properly thought through so that if the payment system on these special benefits arrangements will be coming from the headquarters, then the taxation is done over there. And if it is supposed to be done at the host country too, then the taxation is done over there. At the end of the day, the individual must feel whole in the sense that they must not be worse off than how they were previously treated. Now, so these have also been broken down into specific problems. So when you go, take your time and look at them, okay? Now, let's quickly look at approaches to international assignee compensation. Approaches to international assignee compensation. By this, we are referring to the compensation and benefits administration, which is usually given to international assignees or expatriates once they decide to go and handle an international task. A number of options or arrangements are there for multinational enterprises to explore. But at the germinal stage, that is when they are now new in the international space, and perhaps it is the first time they are assigning someone from the headquarters to go and embark on a task at the subsidiary level, there is the higher likelihood that they might not have the know-how or the blueprint to guide how this particular international assignee will be treated. So at this novice stage, most multinational enterprises may decide to go for what we call the negotiation or ad hoc approach. Mind you, at this point in time, the multinational enterprise is amateur or inexperienced when it comes to how to actually compensate their international assignees. And so by going for the negotiation or ad hoc approach, it primarily means that the compensation specialists in this particular multinational enterprise, usually the HR, will invite the prospective international assignee onto a negotiation table for them to deliberate on how much is actually worth or how the person should be compensated for him to be very much gingered or incentivized for the international assignment. Now, it involves working out a special ad hoc arrangement that is acceptable to both the company and the expatriates. When firms first start sending employees on a national assignment, the firm sends its best expatriates overseas. So in there, they treat this international assignee as a talented workforce with distinctive capabilities. That is why, in the first place, they are even inviting you onto a negotiation table to tell us your terms of reference and for them to also give you feedback on whether they will be able to meet these terms so that this back and forth will bring some form of compromise. And this compromise will become the negotiated agreement or the negotiated package for the international assignee. So this approach is quite simple initially, especially if you are not the type of organization who sends off people frequently on international assignments. So if it is just one person you are dealing with at the moment, then for the start, it will be okay. But with time, you realize that because you are treating each employee differently on the negotiation table, in other words, some people may come out of the negotiation process feeling better off, whereas others may feel worse off as compared to how much their compatriots were treated, it will bring some form of inequity or ill feeling across people that go on the international assignments. And so it will become imperative that you adopt a standardized way of treating people across board instead of trying to negotiate it on one-on-one basis as and when people are given the nod to go on an international assignment. So most books actually caption this approach as the firefighting approach, in the sense that there is almost always no blueprint or codified document to guide the way international assignees are supposed to be compensated. But as and when the need arises, then they quickly go on the negotiation table to come out with something which is substantial. The second approach is what we call the balance sheet approach. The balance sheet approach. And it has also been labeled as the home-based approach. This means that if you do not find the balance sheet approach and you come across the home-based approach, they are basically talking about the same thing. The balance sheet approach and the home-based approach. Now, the balance sheet approach is the most common approach to the formulation of expatriate pay or international assignee compensation. Now, you will recall that the negotiation or ad hoc approach would have led to many inconsistencies between compensation packages of its international assignees. And this is true because on the negotiation table, if you are a good negotiator, then you will be able to come back with a good package. And if you are not able to negotiate properly, then you will be worse off. So it is likely to lead to a win-lose situation. For that reason, the firm will realize it will need to develop a policy and practice that will apply to all expatriates. In addition, the negotiation or ad hoc approach will now be viewed as taking too much time and cost to negotiate. Develop and manage such a unique package for each international assignee. The negotiation it can take a number of meetings before a compromise will be reached, and all these meetings can be time-wasting and costly to the organization, in the sense that all these settings will also attract some form of allowances. So the firm will now seek a more standard approach and will begin to make policies about what will and what will not be covered in the expatriate compensation and benefit package. So by this time, what we are trying to say is that the firm must have learned from some of the challenges that they encountered from the negotiation or ad hoc approach. And in order to remedy the situation, they will now move another step by having a standardized approach to manage their expatriates. Now, the basic tenets of the home-based approach or the balance sheet approach is that it links the base salary for expatriates to the salary structure of the relevant home country. I'm taking it again. The basic tenets or the core arguments associated with the balance sheet approach or the home-based approach is that it tries to link the base salary of the expatriates to the salary structure of the relevant home country. And when we say the salary structure of the relevant home country, it means where you as an expat, you are originating from. Okay, and usually that is where the headquarters is located. An example is a US expat taking up an international position would have his or her compensation package linked to the US-based salary rather than the applicable one to the host country. In the same vein, a Ghanaian expert taking up an assignment in Ghana will have his compensation salary linked to the salary structure in Ghana rather than the one of Nigeria. The basic objective of this balance sheet approach is to keep the expatriate whole through maintenance of home country living standard plus a financial inducement to make the package attractive. So at the end of the day, we don't want the person to be worse off. And we don't want the person to find him or herself in a situation where the base salary that they were receiving in the country of departure is better than that of the host country, but the person is being translated onto the host country's structure, which will make the person worse off. So for starters, you are pegged with your home country salary structure, but you are also given additional allowances and incentives just to make sure you are able to contain the hardship that will come with the job. So the old balance sheet terminology, which you are familiar with, as far as your accounting courses you undertook is concerned, is to emphasize keeping the employee whole. That is, at minimum, the international assignee should not be worse off in terms of compensation, benefit, and lifestyle for accepting an international assignment. And this is particularly true in a country with a lower standard of living than their own country. So if you are moving from US to Ghana, you don't expect to be treated as a whole when you are shifted onto the Ghanaian salary structure. Realize the disparity is very, very wide. So that is the main objective of the balance sheet approach. Now, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the balance sheet approach? We are saying that as far as the advantages of the balance sheet approach is concerned, it tries to bring equity between assignments. And when we say it brings equity between assignments, it primarily means that if two people are originating from, for instance, the home country, to go and perform similar assignments, at the end of the day, they will be treated the same way because they are performing similar assignments. So that is where the equity comes in. And we are also saying that it brings equity between expatriates of the same nationality. So two Americans coming to Ghana to work will be pegged on the basis of their salary structure in US. So at the end of the day, they are going to be treated the same way. Unlike the negotiation approach where the one who does proper negotiation will come out as a winner, and the one who does not do the homework well will be worse off or be experiencing the winner's curse syndrome. Now, another advantage of the balance sheet approach is that it facilitates re-entry of the international assignees, particularly when they are done with their assignment. And over there, we are saying that after the completion of the assignment and they are coming back to their home country, they are not going to feel cheated because they are going to be put on the same salary structure that they left. In other words, at the international level, it was only the international component that was introduced. So once they are done with the assignment and they are going back, they will be now familiar with how much they are supposed to take because they are no longer at the performing an international assignment. So when it comes to the repatriation process and how much they are supposed to receive at the home country, they will be very much accommodating and understanding to the system. And it is also pretty much easy to communicate to the employees, particularly the international assignees, because this is something they are already familiar with or they are already on. And so introducing the international elements to them on the assignment and taking it off when they are done with the assignment will not be a difficult task. Now, it has also been identified to be bedeviled with a number of disadvantages. And the first one is that it can result in great disparities, particularly between expatriates of different nationalities. So assuming one expat is coming from United Kingdom, another one is coming from US of A, and another one is coming from Nigeria, and they are all coming to perform an assignment in Ghana. Since we are using the balance sheet or the home-based approach, and the base salary structure of all these jurisdictions I've mentioned are totally different, then although they are going to perform similar responsibilities, they will be treated differently. And that is what I mean by the disparities between expatriates of different nationalities. In the same vein, it can result in disparities between expatriates and local nationals, even though they might be performing similar responsibilities. And this is particularly a notable issue that my students who are working in multinational enterprises complain about, because they say the experts who came over here, we are actually even doing much of the job, even though they are here as experts. But at the end of the day, they are receiving much higher than us. It is because the multinational enterprise is using the balance sheet approach, and that is why it is resulting in the expatriates receiving something higher than what the local nationals are receiving, even though they are all performing similar responsibilities. And this can also be complicated or complex to administer, because on one hand, you have a lot of local nationals who are on a different salary structure. Then you also have to be simultaneously administering a base salary, which is linked to the home country's compensation and benefit administration. And so if you are not careful, you might end up either overcompensating the assignee or undercompensating them. Now, the third approach to international assignee compensation is what we call the going rates approach or the home-based approach. So this is the opposite of the home-based approach. Unlike the home-based approach, which is linked to the salary structure of the home country, in the going rate approach or the host-based approach, the base salary of the international assignee is linked to the salary structure in the host country. This means that the assignee transfers to the host country payroll and receives base and incentive pay based on the host country compensation and regulations. And how the multinational enterprise administer this is that they usually obtain information from local salary surveys, and that is what we call salary benchmarking. And they keep it as a reference point for the benchmarking. So a Nigerian bank operating in Ghana will need to, and we are saying that if they are sending an assignee from Nigeria to come and work in Ghana, they will have to decide whether its reference point for the benchmarking will be the local Ghanaian salaries or other Nigerian competitors in Ghana or all foreign banks operating in Ghana. And that is how they do the benchmarking. Now, in order Usually the going rate approach is adopted when they believe that, one, the international assignee will not be worse off. So it will be like someone moving from Ghana to go and work in Canada or Nigeria, US of A. So in that place, you will not be worse off. And even when they realize that there are inequalities in how much you'll be receiving at the end, then they will throw in some allowances and benefits to make up for it. Okay. Now, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the going rate approach? A major advantage of the going rate approach is that it is able to achieve equity with local nationals. So here, the international assignee is treated in terms of the reward management system, just like the local nationals at the subsidiary level, except that this assignee will be receiving some additional allowances to make up for the hardship and the inconveniences that they will be enduring over there. And the approach is simple and easy for the expatriates to understand. Simply because the expatriate will now be working in a jurisdiction where they will be privy to what the labor law demands over there, and also what the conditions of service, as well as the cost of living of that jurisdiction is also concerned. And the expatriates are also able to identify with the host country. And when you say they are identifying with the host country, it means that they will be forced to live within the means of the salary structure that they are going to receive. So you are not supposed to be living outside the means, especially when the cost of living over there is very high. So the package you'll be receiving is supposed to keep you whole over there, but not to embellish you at the point where you'll be living a flamboyant life thereafter. And there's often equity among different nationals. Now, when we say there is equity among different nationalities, it means that perhaps if you have international assignees coming from different jurisdictions or countries to work in a particular subsidiary on an assignment, because we are now linking all of you to the base salary structure of the host country, irrespective of where you are coming from, you are all going to receive the same package. So that is where the equity comes from. In terms of the disadvantages, we are saying that it could lead to variations between expatriates of same nationality, but in different countries. You will realize that, assuming we are all Ghanaians and we are embarking on an assignment, but I went to Canada and you went to Nigeria, and we are saying we are linking you to the salary structure of the host country. It means that since I'm working in USA and their salary structure is substantial or up there, I will be better off than you, even though we might be performing similar responsibilities. So that is a major challenge of the going rate approach. And it has also been identified as an approach that yields potential re-entry problems. And this is particularly true when you are linked to a host country base salary structure, which is higher than what you were previously receiving. And in such circumstances, you will find the repatriation process coming across as very much difficult for the international assignee, because they feel that they are leaving heaven to come back to hell. And that is why some people, after they accomplish their task or they finish their assignment, they decide to run away from their company and perhaps seek for other greener pastures in the particular country where they were stationed. So those are the three main approaches that I am introducing you to. And for the purpose of exams, you should know at least two. In fact, if I were you, I'll learn all the three so that when you go and some of them drop, you know how to handle it. All right, now we are going to look at the components of global compensation and benefit administration. So if you pick any global compensation and benefit administration, what are the things that makes it up? Or what are the things that come together to make it more substantial? The first component of any global compensation and benefit administration or any international compensation and benefit program is what we call the base pay. The base pay. So the base pay is the basic compensation that the international assignee receives, usually in the form of wages or salaries. Okay, and it is the most important component of the compensation. It is so because all the other computations that will be done are dependent on the base pay. So the allowances that you receive are computed as a percentage of the base pay. The benefits that you'll be receiving are contingent on the base pay. Your pension, your health benefits, and so on and so forth, they are all contingent on your base pay, and they are calculated as a percentage of the base pay. Okay, so they are construed as very much essential, irrespective of the type of organization that you find yourself in. And these days, there are statutory provisions in place to make sure that in addition to the base pay, you are also able to compute the additional benefits that will make the employee a whole, which we'll be looking at shortly. So the base pay primarily provides the employee a stable income, and it allows them to plan the chores of daily life and budget ahead. In addition to the base pay, most multinational enterprises also provide benefits. And the benefits, there are a number of them. But for multinational enterprises that are dealing with international assignees, some of the benefits that you can attract include annual home leave, which provides airfare for families to return to their home country. It could also include rest and rehabilitation leave. And these are based on conditions of host country and may provide the employee's family with airfares to a more comfortable location near the host country. And there could also be emergency provisions that are available in case of death, illness in the family. Then employees may also be subjected to hardship premium for their locations by often receiving additional leave expense payments or rest and rehabilitation periods. Now, beyond these, the international assignee is also entitled to car allowance, health benefits, pension benefits, and so on and so forth. So all those things can be thrown into the benefit package. Now, depending on the arrangement they have, they can also be administering cafeteria benefits to provide food services to the international assignee. Then the third component include allowances. Now, some treat it under the benefit component, and others also separate it to emphasize the importance that they command as far as the international CBA is concerned. And primarily, allowances are payments which are added to the base pay, usually because of higher expenses encountered when one is living abroad. So, as I mentioned earlier on, the main objective of any international CBA is to make the international assignee feel as a whole. And when we say you feel as a whole, we don't expect you to be worse off. So, cognizance of the possible hardship and challenges that you are likely to encounter abroad, these allowances are thrown in to cater for them. So these allowances are thrown in to compensate the international assignee for sacrificing their home country comforts to serve their organizations internationally. And when we say you are sacrificing the comfort of your home country, it means you are leaving your loved ones, your friends, and your comfort zone to go into a different jurisdiction altogether, where you now have to adjust and at the same time contribute immensely towards your organizational success. So a number of the allowances that are thrown in include relocation allowance. That is an allowance to help you move from one country into the other. Then hardship allowance, which some also characterize as hardship premium, which is usually provided in jurisdictions where the living conditions over there is terrible or harsh. Then housing allowance to help you get a nice edifice where you can put your head. Then cost of living allowance or COLA, which is also provided in jurisdictions where the disparity between your preceding cost of living and the current cost of living is high. Educational allowance, particularly if you are migrating with your children and there is the need for you to get them in an international school, which might be paying higher fees than the prevailing ones in the host country, orientation allowance, and so on and so forth. So all these can be thrown in under the allowance to make the employee a whole and also to incentivize them to go for the international assignments. Then you can also still under the allowances, you can have what we call foreign service inducement allowance, which is paid one time, and then the hardship premium. So the hardship premium is just like the hardship allowance I mentioned earlier on. Now, with the foreign service inducement, parent country nationals often receive a salary premium as an inducement to accept a foreign assignment or compensation for any hardship that is caused by the transfer. So this is more or less like a component of the of your reward management, which is paid one time off to attract or induce you. Now, one notable thing about the foreign service inducements is that it is usually targeted at skill sets which are scarce in that particular community of practice. In other words, when they realize that a particular skill set in a host country is scarce, but they are finding it challenging to also incentivize people from the headquarters to go, then they throw in this foreign service inducement for people to become what? Motivated to pick up such task in the foreign country. And such payments vary depending upon the assignment. and the actual hardship they are likely to face, the tax consequences, and the length of assignment. So primarily, that is, by way, the end of the lecture on international compensation and benefit administration, or global